Silicon Sports Spectator here, continuing our series on great storytelling about the fan experience for all sports. And today we're diving into a less traditional sport, auto racing. NASCAR comes to town with the Sonoma 350 this weekend, an incredible fan event that you should check out if you're looking for something to do this weekend. Today we bring on a great content creator and storyteller who's absolutely passionate about it. Let's hear what it is. We are pleased to welcome James from Boxcar Visual. It's almost like we're doing real journalism around here, bringing in guests and everything. So Boxcar Visual is a YouTube channel. We'll have James talk to about it. But since it's Sonoma Race Week here in the Bay Area, I thought it was a perfect time to bring in an enthusiast. So James, welcome to Silicon Sports Spectator. Tell us a little bit about your content.
Well, I started Boxcar Visual kind of as a New Year's resolution in, I think, 2017 or 2018. And I just wanted to have a creative outlet. I've been a lifelong fan of motorsports and just want to make content that focuses on motorsports without it being overly technical or overly boring. And I love all of the stories involved in motorsports, whether it's the people, whether it's the history of a car, the history of a racetrack. So that's kind of been my focus, is just kind of bringing the human interest element to motorsports. So I have the YouTube channel, and then I have my Instagram account as well, which is also Boxcar Visual. So I've been doing that for a few years, and it's kind of been my major creative outlet. And I get to yap enthusiastically about racing in cars, which is like my favorite thing.
Yeah, this is great. No, and I definitely resonate with the New Year's resolution. I think my hobby came about starting this podcast and all in a very similar way where, okay, I'm just going to get the microphone for Christmas and that will force me to like turn it on. And the rest is kind of, it's like, okay, I'm continuing to toy with this, but that's great. So appreciate that. And the content that I've seen, I'm not a race enthusiast very much. I kind of grew up a little bit around it, but I especially appreciate, maybe this is exactly your target audience, is that like, hey, casual fan, I like seeing these cars. I love like the Corvette review. And so that was one that I kind of quickly grabbed onto. It's like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like, tell me more about this. You kind of went just into enough detail where it's like, got me thinking about some of the more technical aspects, but it's great. Do recommend the content. And, but yeah, would love to hear just some more about you. Tell me a little bit about your origin story about how you came, into some of these interests. Did it begin with Pinewood Derby as a Boy Scout or something else,
So it's kind of an interesting story. You mentioned Pinewood Derby, those little Pinewood, like the little block race cars that you run down the tracks. So I really got exposed to racing at a pretty young age. My dad had a few different careers, but he was the operations manager for Skip Barber Racing in the, 90s, 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I remember the commercials well.
Oh, dude, yeah. At the time, it was like the behemoth. It was the place that you went to get race license, to learn racecraft. And so I grew up getting exposed to that world. I grew up in Connecticut where there's Lime Rock Park, which is a really cool historic racetrack, and spent a bunch of time there. And was lucky enough to work for Skip Barber as a mechanic for a summer job. And
cool.
Yeah. So that really kind of sparked my interest in motorsports. But with the Pinewoods Derby, I remember entering into it, and all the race engineers and stuff over at Skip Barber were like, "Oh, we can build your car for you." Yeah. So it was. I definitely had a leg up on the competition back in the day with that stuff. But that really kind of spurned my interest in motorsports, and just always thought it was really cool. I don't know that I have the technical brain to have made a career out of it, either as a driver or as an engineer or anything like that. But just always thought it was really cool, and also have a bit of a background in theater. It really started before the pandemic when, again, I mentioned my New Year's resolution. I just wanted a creative outlet and kind of thought long and hard. And I was like, all right, well, there's a few things that I really enjoy talking about and learning about, one of which is motorsports. So I figured I wanted to do something performative. Talking in front of a camera was a lot of fun. It's also identifying the story and then writing the script in a way that's engaging, and then, performing it. I just loved all of those elements and putting them together. And it's funny, I was actually really self-conscious when I did it. Sure. I didn't tell any of my friends I was uploading the videos. I'm like, this is for me. I'd almost feel like pretty comfortable if no one saw it. And then, a couple of years ago, I had a couple of videos on Instagram that were seen by other people. They went sort of like, not viral, but, like thousands of likes. And I'm like, holy cow, people are actually, engaging in this content that I've never met before. It was kind of encouraging, and the concept has kind of grown from there. And it's something that every once in a while I get some nice encouragement from outsiders that I don't know, that say something nice about my content, and it makes me feel good, makes me keep going.
Very cool. No, that definitely, that's the goal here. And so I was joking, even mentioned it on the show a couple of weeks ago, where I was looking at some of the stats. I'm like, someone in Russia is listening to me.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't care if it's a bot. Like, I'm going to give more Russian content now. Let's talk about Russian hockey players.
Were you self-conscious when you first did it?
Yes. In fact, that was one of the reasons why I'll say from a professional development standpoint, was I wanted to have more confidence speaking publicly. I'm on Teams calls all the time for work and so forth, but I wanted to be able to come at this with more confidence, with just an avenue to find improvement. So yeah, this really also, I think that had that element of self-improvement. To this day, I think I've learned a lot and finding my voice a little bit. And it's been a great journey for that. It's also helped me professionally too. Like I've brought this up in like my career check-ins, and my bosses and other teams have been really impressed by the fact that I've created this content and have like just a regular cadence at it. It doesn't matter what the content is, but they appreciate that. So it's helped in that regard too.
Yeah, that's I love hearing that. I think it's just, I don't know. I think it's important. I think it sounds like you're similar to me in that you're sort of slightly analytic and slightly creative, and having something that sort of scratches both of those itches, but is also yours, right? Like you can sort of create it in the way that you want. And obviously you want people to engage with it in a positive way, but it's just, it rounds out my life in a really kind of interesting way, where it's like, all right, what kind of project do I want to do? Sometimes I just want to do something really creative and fun and yell at a camera and share a story, because there's endless stories.
Exactly.
In any sport, in any team, it doesn't make a difference, and I love that kind of human interest stuff.
That was perfect. Yeah. I also like to say that my extra motivation too was that maybe someday, like, they'll start throwing tickets or credentials at me so I can actually go to some more of these. It's like the Super Bowl's coming to town in a couple of weeks. I'm not going to buy a ticket, but it's like, hey, you never know.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. For me,
put me in the press box.
Absolutely. Yeah. For me, one of the things that was incredibly cool was the first time that someone that I idolized, it was an IndyCar driver, Will Power.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He liked one of my videos, and I was just like, oh my God, like that guy, like this person who, I think that anyone that reaches that level of motorsports is, they're just the level of commitment, the level of skill, they're levels to any sport, and they're at the highest level. And I admire them so much. And when, that concept of like, this person that I admire tremendously took 30 seconds to watch my video and then interacted with it. It was just one of the coolest things ever.
Perfect. Yeah, that's the goal here.
Yeah.
So Joe Thornton out there, I can't wait for you to like some of my videos.
Right. It's such a small thing that makes such a big difference to us, small creators.
I love it. Cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about this storytelling. And with the spirit of NASCAR coming to the Bay Area here this weekend, I shared a little bit before that I've gone up to there several years ago, but for time trials and so forth. But talk about NASCAR a little bit. And, have you had any experience going to NASCAR racing, or are you just a general spectator fan? What's their connection there?
Yeah. So NASCAR, just a fan. I initially was actually fairly critical of NASCAR. My opinion prior to maybe 2 seasons ago was that they were a little bit cavalier with driver, pit crew, and fan safety. And I'm talking about, they would wreck each other intentionally. And I think that delegitimizes a victory. If you're in first place and you just get punted out of the way, because someone can't get around you without making contact, then I didn't love seeing that. And also, I'm very cognizant that there is a human being in that car. And it's kind of hard sometimes when you're watching it on television. If you're watching the NFL or you're watching basketball or hockey or baseball, it doesn't matter, but you're seeing a human being do the things, right? Like you're seeing their body move around, where in motorsports, you don't get that as much. You see the car. and sometimes you see their helmet, but you don't, it's easy to lose the perspective that like there's a human being in there. And it makes me very nervous every time that I see a wreck. So NASCAR, you'd see these big wrecks and debris can go into stands, debris can go into pit lane where people don't have a full safety cage around them. So that was something that I was fairly uncomfortable with initially. I mean, truthfully, I think I might have been a little bit overjudging because after really committing to watching NASCAR over the past couple of years, it's not as rowdy in that way as I thought. Obviously, they lean on each other more than you'd find in other series. It's a really, I don't know, I think it's a pretty beautiful sport. It's just a different vibe than open wheel racing, kind of the sprint races. Yeah, I already forgot your question. What was it? I was just rambling.
No, that's exactly right. No, I just was curious about your fandom of NASCAR and stuff. I will just
Yeah.
pick up on a point that you made too. Is that I do, I guess, as a casual fan of it,
Mhm.
I've kind of seen that WWE type element of it, which is both good and bad. It's like I kind of like the player drama and hostility between it's. I think that compared to maybe other motorsports that I've
Yep.
seen, that NASCAR maybe does that well, kind of this character development.
Totally. Absolutely. No, I think that's one of the biggest things I think in motorsports, one of the biggest hurdles as far as developing a fan base is making the drivers the stars. Because again, you don't see them when they're doing their sport, which is very unique to other sports. They're sort of hidden in these cocoons. So making them into an actual person with personality and highlighting those stories, it's something that NASCAR has done very well, and it's something that Formula One has done better than anyone with their Drive to Survive series. It came out during the pandemic.
Oh yeah. Have you been to a NASCAR race before?
Not in years. So at Lime Rock Park, back when I was young, there was the Busch North series, which probably would have been the equivalent to maybe the Xfinity series, but not in the modern era. I'd love to. It's on my list of things to do.
Very cool. Do you have a favorite race venue or driver in this NASCAR series that you especially watch every time or gravitate towards?
I can't say that I have any one favorite in any racing series. I mean, I love people that, I don't know, I just love to see good races. In NASCAR, I kind of like the younger generation that's coming up. I think we are starting to see a shift from kind of the old guard that, were a little bit more kind of WE like you were describing, where, they get all hot under the collar and they'd wreck a fellow driver just because of some perceived slight. And maybe you're seeing the younger generation having a little bit more presence of mind to keep an eye on a championship and say, well, I'm not just going to wreck this guy in this one race. I want to make sure I maximize points every time. And so I think you're seeing transition in mentality in some of the younger drivers. So yeah, I like the younger guys coming up. I actually love Kyle Larson. I think he's an absolutely special athlete. If for the casual fan, you might not know that he races in NASCAR, but he also races in like dirt ovals in sprint car racing at the highest level. He's also competed in the Indy 500 2 years in a row now. I mean, he's a very, very special talent in the car. So yeah, I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for Joey Logano. He's from my home state. I kind of pick and choose on any given day. As long as it's a good battle, I'm happy with it.
Very cool. Sonoma is a famed road course in the series, more than just left turns.
Yeah.
And all. So as a fan of the sport and so forth, what kind of element does that bring? Is that more exciting? Is it strange to watch because they're not maybe going as fast? Or how do you like it when you see like a road course in NASCAR or one of these other sports?
I mean, it's different. I love it tremendously. I'm a huge fan of road racing in general. That's kind of my default. Okay. I love seeing these big, sloppy-looking, low-downforce, brutish cars ripping around Sonoma, ripping around any road course. They were just in Chicago, the race before. And, you're so used to seeing these Formula cars, IndyCar, Formula One, that look so planted. It's so sleek. Turn into a corner, you don't see body roll. You just see an immediate change of direction. And that's very impressive. But it's also cool as hell to see these just beastly cars sliding around and bumping into each other and stuff. So, it provides a lot of entertainment. It also kind of shuffles the field a little bit because within NASCAR, they race on, road courses. They race on street courses like Chicago. And then they also do the oval tracks. They have the big super speedways and then the smaller ones like Martinsville and stuff. So at each race, one of the things that I think is really interesting about NASCAR is to be a champion, you have to be good at everything, but there are certain drivers that are specialists at their individual, at different types of tracks. Shane Van Gisbergen is a driver who has been driving in NASCAR for a few years. He's a New Zealander. He used to race in Aussie V8 supercars, which is kind of similar to NASCAR, but primarily road courses. So he's a road course specialist. So it's really exciting when you have this guy that's, mid-pack, still trying to figure out how to be fast on ovals.
Yeah.
He'll show up at a road course and just destroy everyone. So, I think it's fun as hell. And Sonoma's a good racetrack because there's a lot of space in between the racetrack and barriers.
Oh, nice. Okay.
That makes it safe, but there's not a lot of paved runoff. So last year there were a bunch of cautions because the cars would punt each other out into the dirt, then they couldn't get started again. So I love it. I love it all. Honestly, again, like I'm just sort of a motorsports enthusiast. NASCAR, I think that for a casual consumer of the sport, sometimes it's tough to watch just because the races are so long. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles where, Formula One is maximum of 2 hours from the green flag to the checkered. But no, I mean, I think I'm very much looking forward to Sonoma.
Very cool. Yeah. I think I told you before the show too, I'd gone to one of the races before in the past. And a couple of my takeaways from it was, one was I was amazed at how loud it was. And maybe I was, wasn't sure what to expect, but like I needed like a full on headset. And even then it was still loud. And for a first time fan, at an event like that, it was just something that didn't translate over from TV. But it's great. It enhances the experience though too. You just got to be prepared a little bit for it. It's so that was a cool thing. But I was so impressed too by just the fan base too, and I think I had this expectation, a bunch of rednecks hanging out, and there kind of was that element too, but at the same time, like it felt as big as a football Sunday game where, hey, this is just part of the culture, and but it had a magnetic quality to it where it was very cool to experience as a sports fan in general. So I don't know if you've had the similar experience or thoughts there.
Yeah, I mean, I literally I might get choked up just talking about this now. There's one of the things that I love about motorsports is when you go to a race, that initial green flag drop. And not only is it the highest level of anticipation, NASCAR, they do rolling starts where the green flag flies. In Formula One, they do standing starts where the 5 red lights light up and then they go off and everyone goes. And you have all the motors coming to crescendo at the same time in the same place, and it shakes your chest. It is just it is one of the most magical moments in sports for me, is that first moment where everything comes to life and it shakes your body. And it literally it is one of the most impactful sporting moments that I personally think you can ever experience. And something that you also touched on that I think a casual fan might not realize is the level of accessibility that you get when you go to any of these races. We think of, I want to go to a race, so I got to go to NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One. But if you go to Sonoma's events calendar, there's time trials, there's vintage races, there's kart racing, there's regional racing, there's a couple of organizations that are very big and very popular in the U.S. for enthusiasts like ourselves to get into racing. There's NASA and there's SCCA, and NASA NorCal races at Sonoma Raceway. And you have, some of the legitimate stars of tomorrow that are racing in some of those series like the Spec Mazda Miata series. And I think if you have a family, if you just want to go see stuff, you don't have to go to these big events, even though NASCAR tickets are more affordable than going to a minor league baseball game sometimes. But you can still go to just a regional event. A lot of times tracks don't charge at all for you to just show up and go through the gate, and you get to see these cool cars and talk to drivers, get that racing experience. A lot of people think you got to fly to Monaco and go to the Formula One race or, go to the Daytona 500 and just Google. If there's a track within an hour of you, look at their schedule, go to their website. If you think cars are cool, usually you're within an hour or two, just about anywhere in the country, of seeing it in person, which I highly encourage people to do.
That's a great point too. And I know here in the Bay Area too, we also have Laguna Seca down in Monterey, about, a couple hours away at most from most spots in the Bay Area. Very famous. But I think even at that track, I think my brother told me this, that you can bring your own car on some days and, sign the waiver or whatever, but you want to see how fast you can get going or whatever, but there's racing schools as well too. So but by all means, really cool opportunities.
Yeah, a lot of tracks have open open track days. You pay a couple $100, they'll loan you a helmet. You can basically bring any car. Generally speaking, if you're going to do that and you're going to drive a private vehicle, there are some things you want to do ahead of time. So if you haven't done it before, maybe reach out to a local racing team, maybe pay one of their mechanics a few $100 to go through your car. And, obviously, there's a few things. Brakes are one of the biggest components that,
Mm.
a lot of people want to put attention to on a racetrack because, when you're driving around on the street, you're hitting brakes at maybe 30% pressure every couple of minutes, where on a racetrack, you're going 100% pressure multiple times in a minute. So you need to swap out brake fluid, potentially brake pads. It's not super expensive to do that, but it is super expensive if you boil the brake fluid and your brakes fail and you go off into a tire wall. So if anyone does want to do that, I think it's awesome. You should absolutely do that. Again, go back to the accessibility. I think a lot of people think there's a major hurdle because that's the storyline that you hear from Formula One drivers. Everyone has their origin story where their dad was a billionaire, or, they had to beat all these people and they had to survive through to make it to the top. And those are all amazing stories. But to just get on track and do it, the hurdle is a couple $100. I mean, you can go kart racing. Go-karting is one of the biggest access points to racing. And I got to be honest, like, even rental carts, the big old, those are awesome. It's so much fun. You're still out there racing with people.
So recently here, switching gears here a little bit, there's kind of been a big buzz about Formula One. I mean, dating back to like the Netflix series, probably been, of course, the movie is out right now in theaters. With Brad
Have you seen it?
I have not yet, but I'm hoping to go see it in D-Box here. I wasn't going to do it on the holiday weekend, but now that that's passed, I think I'm really want to check that out and get that full experience. So by all means, I'm very interested. But let's talk about how that's helped the industry and driving some new buzz about it.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I have to acknowledge your amazing puns, driving new buzz and switching gears. I don't know if those are intentional or otherwise, but well played. I love a good pun. No, I think the auto industry and the motorsports industry in general, really, it comes and goes in waves. There are times where everything is good and there's a really strong fan base. We saw that sort of in the 90s. And then there are times where it takes a bit of a dip. We saw that in the 2000s where, in general, NASCAR isn't as popular. Formula One isn't as popular. And then it grows in popularity. And that's one of the things that's happening right now. And I think the Drive to Survive series was a major driving component in creating awareness and interest in motorsports. And now people sort of fan out where it's like, oh, well, I'm into Formula One. What else is on? And then a Formula One driver goes over to IndyCar. So now I'm going to watch IndyCar. And then there's dialogue over whether Kyle Larson would be able to race against Max Verstappen in Formula One and who's a better objective athlete. So it kind of fans out. And I think right now, over the past few years, there has absolutely been a major uptick in interest. And it's up to the motorsports organizations to figure out how to capitalize on it. And motorsports is a little bit of a weird animal because it's got an elitist vibe, like it's particularly Formula One, where they talk about how opulent and extravagant it is. And to go to a race is very expensive. And Formula One likes having that sense of elitism. But at the same time, they want to make money. They want to be popular. So you have to bring in sort of a core fan base that maybe doesn't have $1,000 to sit in a seat for 2 hours. So I think that all motorsports have gotten more popular. And again, I think it's a lot to do with Drive to Survive and the timing of it during the pandemic. And we'll see, I think, over the next few years, sports, whether it's, NASCAR, MotoGP, IndyCar, which ones can really capture a core audience and grow that base instead of just growing the fans that are into it for a year or two. So we'll see. I think NASCAR is doing a really good job, as is IndyCar. IndyCar has sort of been a second tier organization in a lot of people's eyes. And they recently, just this past year, the races are being broadcast on Fox, which NASCAR also does some of the races on Fox. So, I think we're in a really good place in the motorsports industry, and it's just a matter of seeing strategically which organizations can use this bubble to raise their customer base. So when there is a popularity dip in a few years, which will inevitably happen, that their overall base is now bigger.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, it's I know it's driven me to Formula One, which I never have followed before in the past. And I didn't even really get into the Netflix thing either, but just because it's been more prominent on TV.
Totally.
Watching some of the races, like Monaco is always one that I always tune into just purely just for the background. Like I just love them driving by this beautiful place and everything too.
Yeah.
I also harken back to that for my Bay Area fans here too. I think it was 2005 or something. This is a long time ago, but that the city of San Jose had the San Jose Grand Prix, which is kind of an IndyCar open wheel racing thing, come to downtown San Jose and, create a course throughout there. And my dad and I went to that and just picked that. It was, I think it was just a 1 year stint. It didn't really last, but it was part of this movement or whatever, bringing open wheel racing into the cities. And
Yeah.
for me, it was a cool experience, even though I kind of just sat on one corner and only got to see one straightaway.
I think
But
that was the IndyCar Champ Car split, I think.
bingo.
During
Yeah,
then.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing with road racing is, particularly on a street course, you're going to get one corner,
Yeah.
right? Like, and that's why NASCAR's doing that in Chicago now. A couple of years ago, they started running a street course in Chicago, and it's, again, to try to broaden their base and do something exciting. And it is expensive for them to put those races on. The novelty of it is amazing. There's the Long Beach Grand Prix that's been running for ages down in Long Beach as well.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a street course that is sort of the Monaco of the U.S.
Very cool. Do you have a bucket list venue with, a Monaco and Indianapolis, or, one of those that you would just love to see a race? Or...
Yeah, so I've been pretty spoiled with my day job. I've been to Monaco
Cool.
and got to see the Formula One race there. And, I got to see the first Vegas Grand Prix for Formula
cool.
One.
Yeah.
So Monaco would have been a bucket list, and kind of, even though I've been there, still is, because it's amazing. Yeah, I'd like to go to the Indy 500. I'd like to go to the 24 Hours Daytona as well. I think the Indy 500 is a sporting event that transcends its own sport. It's like the Super Bowl. My mom doesn't care about football at all. She makes sure she watches the Super Bowl every year. Indy 500 is kind of the same vibe, so I'd like to go to that.
Yeah, so this is maybe where I get to flex a little bit so I went to, I think it was the 1999 Indianapolis 500, and it was cool. You were talking about it earlier, and this came back to me as soon as you mentioned it, was you said at the start of the race, for there, gentlemen, start your engines, and that dramatic moment. And I like how you said about just the whole sport coming alive at that moment. Like, yeah, the hair is standing up on you, and it's just this moment that takes away your the breath away from you. So I don't remember a ton from that time, but it's like I remember that clear moment, and the huge party beforehand.
Yeah,
the night before, which was hundreds of thousands of people in downtown Indianapolis, raving, and it was just incredible. And really cool experience.
That's exactly why I want to go. And that was a cool era that you went, like that kind of the late 90s, early 2000s. That's when I was sort of growing into an adult fan. As a kid, you're just like, oh, there's cool stuff around. And then, I used to get Racer Magazine, and look through and look for drivers that I knew who I'd interacted with and stuff like that. But man, that's so cool that you got to go to the Indy 500. Would you go? You'd go back again?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I remember kind of being chaos, but we had some family friends that lived in Indianapolis. And so they had some local connection about how to get tickets. And we had great seats. It was right in front in the grandstands, kind of facing the pits. Mm-hmm. And it was just a kind of a perfect vantage point. And absolutely had a great experience there with it. And like I said, I'm not a huge racing fan. I kind of grew up, my family would always watch the Indianapolis 500 every Memorial Day weekend. It's still a tradition that we keep up. And so got to experience that. I had to look it up. I couldn't remember, but Kenny Brack won that year in 1999.
Yeah. Is that the one? Yeah. Is that the one where Robbie Gordon, he ran out of fuel on the last lap or something? It was wasn't there last lap drama?
It was a last lap drama. I don't remember what it exactly was. And I suppose actually maybe that was something too that I admit, I give props to the television commentators who put on such a great show and kind of explaining all that context, where seeing it live, you kind of miss that. You only see a fourth of the course.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah.
And so I do remember there being last minute drama. I think there was a clear passing on the final lap and stuff that we saw because we were standing up going nuts. And but I don't remember this specific thing. It could just be because it's over 25 years ago. But
right. Such a good, and that's, I don't know. I just love motorsport, but in that roar of the engines, anybody listening, if you have an opportunity, even if you're not a huge motorsports fan, just experience that. Once, just a green flag, even if it's I've done some kart racing, and I still pop by I'm in Utah, so there's the Burt Brother Motor Park, which is the racetrack and there's a kart track there, and even watching the go-karts when they take the green flag. It's any motor just coming to full song. And when you get
Very
a
cool.
bunch of them in unison, I love it. It's literally like probably 85% of the reason why I'm a fan of motorsports is just that one moment.
That's so cool. Now, for our casual fans here who are tuning in and listening to this interview and so forth, what advice would you have for them, for them checking out the sport, whether it's seeing it on TV or actually checking out one of the venues that we've talked about? What are some things to watch for, or even just hot topics that might appeal to them?
I think if you're interested in motorsports, again, it's just getting out there and going to races. Don't wait for necessarily NASCAR to come to town. Don't necessarily wait for, Formula One or whatever. Really look to see what's around you. Keep your mind open because, like if there's a drag race, even if you're not a big fan of drag racing, you should go if you're interested. It's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
There's a sprint car race, which is the like kind of tight dirt ovals, those cars that look like they are literally nothing other than a cage and a wheel, which is basically what they are. Any of that stuff. I think that, don't be intimidated to go talk to drivers, particularly local guys that aren't famous. Like they're very excited to for the most part, they're very excited to, talk to people and, like take, your kid and put him in the cockpit of the car and you can get a cool picture and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. Even the experience that I had going to Sonoma in the NASCAR event that I went to, again, it was just a time trials, but we did have pit passes as well, too. And that wasn't a big expensive thing, but it was so cool. Like you said, we were able to walk up right to the mechanics and talk about, hey, their feelings on this year. And I loved how accessible they were. You couldn't do that like in the NFL. I couldn't talk to an assistant coach.
Right.
And it's like, but how cool was it? It go down there. And I remember seeing Jeff Gordon and his car up super close and so forth. And he was the star at the time. And it's like, we were just like hanging around in his garage, and talking to members of his crew, and he ended up winning that year. The Sonoma, I think he's won it the most times, 5 times, I think.
Wow. Yeah, that's actually the best piece of advice I could give is do the extracurriculars. Don't just show up for the race.
Totally.
Get there early, walk around, go to all the vendor booths. That is, I think, maybe different than a lot of other sports. And I think about it, like baseball, football, hockey. I don't know that they have the same level of extracurriculars leading up to the event itself. I don't know. It's not like you do. Yeah. So go early, do all the paddock walks that you can, do all the driver meet and greets that you can. I think that enhances the experience tremendously.
Well, this is great. I really appreciate your time today. For everyone listening, do check out Boxcar Visual on YouTube, on Instagram. And this has been a great conversation. Thanks for your time here today, James, talking racing and everything there is to it. I hope that this is a sport that continues to grow. It's not really just thought of as a California sport, but I think there's some great roots here that people can build on, and some great attractions to check out, especially this weekend up in Sonoma.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe. This has been awesome.
Yeah,
this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
All right, cool. Well, we'll maybe have you back around Indy time or certainly some other time. But love having the conversation, and do check out Boxcar Visual. For everyone at Silicon Sports Spectator, I'm Joe. For James, we're out.